Welcome to another episode of Conquer the Course. Your podcast gets you ready for any and every race out there on the planet. With me once again is the top endurance sport coach of New Zealand, Auckland's very own Dilly Dally, Rob Dallimore. I call you Dilly Dally now, bud. How you doing?
I'm good with that. Hey, I'm good,
Ah,
Jim. I'm very good.
yeah,
Yeah, and I hear you're good. I see you got
I'm
another
good.
Ironman in the book, so how
Coach Jim
exciting!
Lubinski. Yeah, Coach Jim Lubinski. I never said who I am. Might be your first time listening. You might be over from Dilly Dally's neck of the woods and be like, who is this? Who is this Chicago guy
Who's
via
this
Los
clown?
Angeles talking to Dilly Dally on the other side of the microphone? But yeah, Coach Jim Lubinski, I'm over in Los Angeles. You're over in Auckland. I don't know where the hell
Yeah,
you're always somewhere different. You're coming over here. I'm going to see you in a few days. This is exciting,
I
buddy.
know, man. I'm coming. I'm coming stateside. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're flying right over Hawaii. We're going to talk about Ironman 70 sorry, the Ironman World Championships happening this Saturday in Kona. We're going to talk about that in this episode. You're flying right over Hawaii where you have three athletes racing in order to come
Yeah,
to LA to see me.
yeah,
That is where you show your priorities are, buddy. I
exactly.
appreciate that.
I'll
You're
wave to
gonna
people on the way past.
yeah, you're gonna wave to him as you go over. Maybe throw a parachute of Morton gels out
Yeah,
or the precision hydration gels out
yeah,
the window as you
exactly.
fly over. But so I said it already. But you got three athletes racing in Kona this weekend.
Yeah, and I had a chat to one of them yesterday, and she gave me the lowdown, gave me the vibe on the streets, and it sounds pretty cool. It sounds, it's your typical Kona. It's hyped and it's exciting, and everyone looks fresh and fit and fast, and yeah, it's just good vibes. Dolphins are out the bay, and yeah, it's can't can't complain when it's like that, eh? It's
Yeah,
just a dream. It's the dream location.
I just got a note from Jacqueline. It's hot out, and she's driving somewhere, and she's just looking around. Everybody's out training. Everybody's off showing out their physiques. They're all riding. They're all running over there, and it's funny to see race week. How many people get so amped up? They go way too hard leading
Mm,
into race day over there, and they go and they end up walking that run because all those matches they burn building into race day. So we'll
yeah.
touch on that, but yeah, is this something you're telling your athletes to, hey, let's chill out, stay in the AC, stay on top of your carbohydrates, stay on top of your electrolytes, and get ready for race day. Don't blow everything you got in the lead up.
Yeah, it's such a difficult concept for people to get in race week. But if you've done 6, 9 months, whatever, of preparation for this race, just go and pull them back on the reins for a couple of days going into the final race and the final push, onto race day, is not going to derail your race. It's I mean, if you've done all this work leading up to it, you don't need to do hard stuff in race week. There's nothing to be gained from that. And I see so many people out doing big intervals along LE Drive and doing some efforts on the bike, and you just think, what's how's this going to end on race day? How's this going to end on Saturday? Is it is this really the right thing to be doing? And it isn't. Generally this week is all about recovering, resting the body, getting the mind in the game, like you say, getting inside, keeping the air conditioning on, keeping the body as with the least amount of stress possible. So when race day comes and that cannon goes, you're off, and you got no hesitation at all. You haven't got nothing to worry about, and
And
it's
we talk about it from a physical standpoint, right? Don't go out there and do tons of big intervals in the heat, in the vortex that is Kona. I mean,
mm,
it is an energy suck, that island, right? The reason
mm,
you see so much carnage on race day is because there's so many variables that are working against you and working against your physiology. So from a physical perspective, you got to take that seriously. Relax this week, stay in the air conditioning, stand, like I said, stand on top of the carbohydrates. You're
mm.
nonstop taking in those electrolytes, maybe adding a little salt, extra salt to your food. You know what I used to do? The day before a race, even if it was 95 degrees, I'd drink French onion soup. And you think, why the hell would you drink that? It is so dense with sodium.
It's
That on
pretty
top of
niche.
it's that, and it wakes up your system a little bit. Let's say that, and you might have a little, a little fragrance coming out the back end on race day. But hey, you know what? It's like a motorboat. But but you have to think of it. I'm actually consulting for this ice hockey team now that the coach I used to play for 25 years ago, and he contacted me a few weeks ago. He said, "Hey, I love all the stuff you put out there. I want you to talk to my team about the mental side of the game." And it's a bunch of 18 to
Yeah,
20-year-old kids playing ice hockey in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and we were talking about mental fatigue and how crucial it is to go into a game, or in our case a race, mentally fresh just as you do
Mm,
physically fresh, right?
mm.
Don't be out there shaking hands, kissing babies all week race week. Don't be out there doing 15 minutes of stand up in front of the bright lights. Don't be doing talks. Don't be, doing a ton of team events where you have to go and, glad hand
Mm.
everybody. Take this time for yourself and mentally get fresh and relaxed and recovered, just as you are getting physically fresh and recovered. Because when you get into race day, especially a demanding course like Kona, you need every ounce of that mental fitness that you have in the tank, and you can't be breaking that down or using that before you hit the start line.
Yeah, and I think back to because I've raced Kona 4 times, so I've been there enough times to sort of know what works and what doesn't work. And I've found in the past, I found myself rushing around town doing some shopping, going to the expo, and generally you just walk back to your accommodation, which might be a mile or so down the road, and then you think, oh, I've got to go for that run session, and I've got to go for that bike session, and it's just you just forget how much actually walking around town does physically to you, and how much that can just drain your system, and that in itself is your training. You walk around town for a couple of hours in the heat, and that's your workout for the day. You got to go home, put your feet up, rest, have
Yep.
a sleep. It's
Yeah.
not the time to
That's
go
right.
home and do that interval session you needed to do. So just don't disregard how much walking around, talking, chatting, how much physically demanding that is.
And
Yeah.
realize that the time change is affecting not many are from Hawaii. It's a three
Mm.
hour difference from here. It's a I don't know what the hell it is from you are. It's a whole 2 days or
We're an hour
something
we're an
different.
hour behind, but a day ahead.
Yeah, day ahead, the hour behind. You're in the future, the quantum leap, if you will. East Coasters are 9 hours. It's crazy the time change.
Yeah.
Europeans, I don't know. It's different, right? So if you're tired, don't force the training. Take the little extra
Mm.
time, sleep. You got to get a little movement in this week, but be honest with yourself and what's more important, get a little extra rest or getting out and doing that run. A lot of
Mm.
times it's gonna be getting extra rest.
And if I think, from a New Zealand and Australian perspective, we come out of our winter into the Hawaiian heat, and it is really, really foreign to us. So getting that electrolyte intake up in race week is so important. So getting that precision hydration in, and just constantly drinking something, it doesn't seem right, because we're used to a colder climate, the months before training. But once we get to Hawaii, it's all different. And I guess the same applies to the Europeans that are traveling there. They've got a long flight, and that long flight itself can be particularly draining as well. So just understanding that travel fatigue, and a different climate and a different time zone has a huge effect on the body, and you just don't want to have that be an issue on race day. So clear
Yeah.
that first, and then think about, what do I have to do for exercise? What do I have to do to get myself ready for this race?
Yeah. So
Um,
we're talking. Let's talk about Friday. Race is Saturday.
mm.
Friday, you guys gonna have to drop your bikes off and do all the pre-race rigmarole. What are some what's some advice that you can give these guys Friday, Saturday morning, going into the gun going off that you've learned from your 4 times doing Kona?
Yeah, so it's a funny one. Like, you know, it's not your typical race eve. Um, it's not it's generally you're staying away from the race venue. So you have to travel into Kona with your bike and with your gear and stuff like that. And you might choose to do a little swim session in the bay. I generally don't tell people to ride their bike the day before the race. You've done enough cycling. You just don't want to risk having anything happen on the road. You don't want to risk getting glass in your tires or something like that. You've done your cycling. Go there, do a little swim in the bay, park your bike in transition, maybe go for a jog if you feel you can. But it's more about just making sure everything is set up ready for the day. Make sure your bike is fully prepped. Um, and obviously you're registered, you've got your numbers on and stuff like that. Because when you do go to wreck your bike, it's pretty hectic. It's there's a lot of people around. You're walking in through the bike drop off area, and you got Pro Tri News doing their recording as you're walking through, and you got to, they'll stop and talk to you and stuff like that. And it's there's a lot of action going on. There's people taking photos of your bike. You got volunteers everywhere. It's just information overload, and it's so much going on that you see a lot of people just get freaked out by that. So don't be surprised if the race before the day before the race is actually quite stressful and quite nervy. But just go through the processes and know exactly what you need to do. Make sure you keep that stuff simple. and have a good look through transition and understand the layout, how it flows, how it's going to be the next morning, and how where you can prep yourself for the swim and stuff like that, and just really take your time. Just don't rush that. Don't rush that part. So I generally try to get my bike in the earliest I can, just so I have the rest of the day just to chill, not do anything.
Yeah, don't get caught up in all the hype, Get in there, drop
Mm,
it off and get out of there. It's just
mm,
it's too you put too much into this day to get caught up in the hype, get caught up in the noise. You can have fun afterwards. You can go to Babbitt's
mm.
post-race party if he's throwing that kind of thing after the race. This day before, especially, is all about you, right? Don't
Yeah.
go try and entertain your family. Don't go cliff diving up at end of the world. Don't go to the brewing company, Kona Brewing Company, and have 15 beers because your family's there and you need to entertain them. This day's about you. After the racing, go back to your family time, your more, time where you're giving back to everybody and you can enjoy the vacation. Take it
Mm.
serious because when you're out there suffering on race day, everybody's going to be suffering. But it's those athletes who prepared and anticipated that suffering by saving those matches going into race day. And we've been beating the dead horse the first 10 minutes here. But those athletes who save the matches going into it are the ones who are going to be persevere through those obstacles and be
Yeah.
successful on the day.
And the other thing I always tell people to do is prepare ahead for what you're going to do in terms of food on that day. So having gone to the supermarket already and got your breakfast and your lunch and your dinner for the day before the race already sorted. So you're not rushing around at 5 o'clock trying to find something for dinner. You've got it all done. You've got it ready to go. That once you park your bike and you go back to your accommodation, the rest of the time is just all about sitting down, relaxing, and making sure you don't have to go out and do anything again. So plan ahead, make sure you've got all that stuff ready to go, and just really minimize the stress.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
And
it's a tough one.
what about race morning? Any tips, getting there early, what time they should get there, what they should bring with them that they might have forgotten? Should they bring food with them? What's your thoughts on race morning in Kona?
Yeah, well, you and I are probably the same. We've done enough of these races that you sort of know you lay everything out the night before the race, and you make sure everything is there that you need, and you have your drink bottles lined up ready to go. And race morning, I always make sure I get up early enough so that I'm not having to rush around to get stuff done. So have a relaxed early morning breakfast or whatever you have pre-race, and then already have your plan in place of how you're going to get to the start. So in the past, we've stayed right down the far end of Alii Drive, and there's a shopping centre down there, and there's a shuttle service which takes you from the shopping centre all the way into the pier along Alii Drive, and it stops along and picks people up along the way. And that's so good because you just have to get on this bus and it just drives you all the way to the headquarters rather than having a car, having people drop you off. It's that in itself is pretty stressful. So do some homework and see if you can find out the details of the Alii Drive shuttle bus service. This where the pickup points are, and from what time it's going to be available, and use that if you're able to, because that's a really, really helpful thing. If you haven't
And
got,
trust it. A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't trust it." It's like that's the reason it's there is to be on
yeah,
time and take care of the athletes. So don't
yeah,
don't say I'm gonna have somebody drop me off because I don't trust the timing of it. The sole purpose of that shuttle is to work for the race. It's gonna be on time and
mm,
it's gonna get you to the race a lot more efficiently than someone who's gonna go drop you off, sit in traffic, drop you off, find parking, whatever it might be. So use the resources the race is providing and trust that it's going to be there and be on time because that's its sole job and it gets priority getting through the traffic and getting to the drop off points.
yeah, exactly. And then once you get to the transition area, again, it's hectic, it's noisy, it's dark. There's floodlights around, but everything is heightened, and that's the point of the day where I start finding myself getting quite nervous. So again, just relaxing, breathing, going through your processes, knowing exactly what you need to do. You've got to go through. Go into the transition area, go to your bike, make sure it's set up, ready to go, and then it's a matter of knowing when your start time is for your wave. And Jim, I think you and I would have been in the same boat. For the 70.3 wheels, we were the last wave, and in Kona last year, I was in the second to last wave. So I think I had an hour and a half between the pros going off and my wave going off, and so that hour and a half was just empty. What do I do? And me and my mates, actually, we just went and sat down on the grass, and we just lay down and just almost had a sleep, and it was really, really relaxing, and there was just everything was done. There was no rushing around, there was no panic, and it was probably the most relaxed I've been going into a race of that magnitude. Just knowing that we're done, we just got to go line ourselves up and just wait for our start
Yeah, that's a
team to
good
move
point. I
on.
mean, you don't want to be standing around. I mean, you're going to be on your stems for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 17 hours. It's like,
Mm.
don't stand around. Take a load off, take a little stress off those legs. And a lot of you are going to have to wait a long time to start. So go put your feet up, go relax. And then, around what would you say, 20, 30 minutes out from your start time, then you can go get a little jog in, get some blood flow in. But don't
Yeah,
be
exactly.
standing around. Like, go find a place to put your feet up and relax.
Yeah, and I mean, you do get a sort of a swim warm up. Once you go into the water, you do swim out to the start buoys. So that's essentially a swim warm up. It might only be a couple of minutes, but so if you do get an opportunity to sort of swing the arms around a little bit just before you sort of go into that pen, that's helpful as well. But yeah, go for a little light jog, start getting some blood flow into the legs, start moving the arms around a little bit, and then you can line yourself up, and then
So you lined up, you got your wave start time, right? So let's look at the swim course here. We've all seen the swim course 1,000 times, and you've swam it plenty of times in addition to racing it 4 times. I've swam it a bunch of times. I actually did a podcast on our other podcast, the Tower 26 podcast, episode number 59. We did live in Kona a couple years ago, and we spoke solely about the swim course. If you want really, really detailed information, you can listen to that as well, the Tower 26 Be Race Ready podcast. But what are you seeing on this course here, Rob? What are some things to point out? What are you thinking? What are some, as they're in the middle of this course, what did you do to execute such a great swim that you had those times you raced Kona?
yeah, it's I mean, it's a drag race to the top of the course. So, I just found that I just and cycling is very difficult because there's quite a few people around. So I just trusted that if I was in the wash and if I had people around me, I was heading in the right direction. Until I knew that it sort of cleared out a little bit, and then I could find some space, and I could start looking at, how are we lining these boys up. But that far turn buoy is so far away, you can't see it. You can hardly see it from the start, but you just pick up the intermediate buoys, and you just sort of know as you're swimming past them that you're on course, you're on track.
Well, I think it's better
Uh,
not to look at that turn buoy because you can look. I mean, it's a
yeah,
straight out 2,000 meter,
so
close enough
far.
2,000 meters. If you look all the way at that turn buoy when you're at 200 meters in, it's a hell of a long way, right? So I
Yeah.
think you're better off not being able to see that turn buoy and just swimming one to the next to the next.
Mm,
Eventually, you'll be there, but it's like running the marathon, right? You don't look for mile one or first was in the first kilometer and say, holy cow, I got 42 of these damn things to go, right? Or 26 of these things to go. You just say, okay, I'm gonna run 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and you guys got to do the same thing with these buoys, right?
mm,
You have some buildings on the left-hand side, right? You're swimming along the coastline on the left-hand side. So you can either swim buoy to buoy, or you can swim what I do at Ironman Arizona, which is a similar swim, 2,000 out, 2,000 back. You look at those buildings when you breathe to the left and say, okay, I'm going to swim to the end of this building. Now I'm going to try and
mm.
get to the end of that building. Now I'm going to swim to the end of this building. And just pick off these buildings one by one, just as you're picking off the buoys one by one, and eventually
Yeah.
you're at that turn buoy.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing you got to remember is that because it's wave starts, you will start picking up slower people from the wave ahead, and that will generally happen probably a third of the way up the course because it was there are some people that are swimming there that are probably a little bit probably that are slower than you, and that you do generally catch those people. So just be really mindful that once you're sort of a third of the way up that course, and you're going past one of the big resort on the left hand side there, that you probably will start catching up to some slower swimmers. So just that's the time to start keeping an eye out, making sure you're not swimming over people, going around them. But I found myself by the time I got to the top turn, it had gone so quickly. Like you say, you just don't look ahead. You just don't get into your head how far away that first turn is, and before you know it, you're on it.
Well, the thing is
Um,
with the wave start, though, instead of, most of the Ironmans now are doing the time trial start. With this wave
mm,
start, it actually, like you said, it makes it go by quickly because you're swimming with other swimmers. You're swimming through other swimmers, the slower swimmers that you're coming up on. It just makes for a more entertaining swim, if you will. That's the way we had it at
Mm,
Nice. And it's been a long time since I did a mass start. You know, you're starting with 400 guys, 400 women in this case. It's a mass start, right? There's arms,
mm.
there's legs everywhere. You come up on those slower swimmers, you're swimming through them. And because there's so much chaos going on and so much entertainment going on, like you said, you're at that first turn buoy before you know it.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing I remember from last year is as I was swimming towards the top of the course, I had a pod of dolphins that went under me, and that was
Oh,
just
those are big beasts, man. You look
yeah,
at it from the side, you're like, oh, they're not that huge. They swim under you and they are massive. You're like, what the hell was that? A school bus?
yeah, it was incredible. But it was just one of those things that just brought me back to the fact that we're swimming in we're swimming in this incredible location that we're so lucky to be able to do that you don't want to miss those opportunities. So take in what's on around you. Take it, look at the fish, look at the coral, just absorb it and be grateful that you're swimming out in this place, and just don't get too stressed and caught out in the moment of what this race is. You're doing this because you love it. And when you see a pod of dolphins, you're reminded of that. And it was really special. And then, it can be a little bit chaotic around the top because, you are encountering ocean currents. So you do get that swell coming from the ocean towards the bay. So when you do go around those top turns, there can be a little bit, it can be a little bit wavy, and you might come across, it might bunch up a little bit and get a little bit hectic. But once you get around that second right hand turn and you're making your way back towards the pier, that's the time to start settling into your rhythm and just finding those feet and holding that line and just really really just swimming smoothly and swimming strong. Um, because that return stretch I find actually takes a little bit longer than the outward stretch.
Oh,
So
that's
don't
what I
be
was gonna
surprised.
say. I was gonna say once you get about three-quarters of the way out to that turn buoy, and then you make the right hand turn back in, you're getting a lot more chop. It gets a lot
Mm,
more, you get a lot more swelly as you get out into the more open ocean part of it. So just be prepared for that. And then typically the time that I've swum the course, you tell me if you've had any different, you get a little bit of a current in your face coming back.
yes.
So don't be
Yeah.
looking at your watch. Don't be no, I can't stand it when athletes tell me I looked at my watch halfway through. What the hell is that telling you, right? Don't look at your
Yeah.
watch. Like just swim. And you're gonna probably go a little slower on the way back, but you know that
Mm,
you're performing within your ability level. Don't let that feeling of going a little slower affect how you're outputting your pacing and your power. It's a long day to you got a lot of riding to do and a lot of running to do. Stick to your swim and like you just said, enjoy it, right? Enjoy the
mm,
process and don't worry so much about, oh my God, I'm going a little slower on the way back. I gotta go faster. I gotta turn up the cadence. I gotta turn up my kick. All you're doing is burning matches. And
mm.
this salt water that you're in, it's warm, it's very concentrated salt water. It is sucking those electrolytes out of you. So if you're
Yeah.
overcooking that swim and you're letting that current in your face affect you, or you're letting the swell have its way with you and you're fighting that water, you're not staying relaxed and efficient, you're going to get out and you're going to feel like a sponge that somebody just wrung out all the electrolytes. You got to stay
Mm,
relaxed, stay efficient because it's extremely draining water. I mean, you get out
mm.
and you know if you've overcooked it. Your head's hot and you just feel like there's not an ounce of liquid left in your body.
Yeah, I always get out and my lips are dry, my throat's burning, my tongue's dry. It is really, really salty and it does really dehydrate you. So just be mindful of that. The other thing that Jim, can you just bring up that swim course again? I just wanted to point
Yeah,
out
here we
one
go.
last thing.
Of course, I take it down. You ask for it again. Here you go.
There is just that last part towards the pier. It kinks in to the right a little bit, and this always catches me out because I think I'm swimming straight. But when you just get towards the end there, and there'll be a massive bottle on the pier that you line up, a blow up bottle. It used to be a Gatorade bottle. I can't remember what it is now. It might be a precision hydration bottle now. But that's your sighting point to return. And the weird thing is you think you need to be swimming straight, but actually it does kink to the right a little bit. So you just need to make sure you adjust your line a little bit as you come in towards the pier. And that last 50 meters swimming along the side of the pier towards the end of the swim takes forever. It's just
Yeah.
like, come on, get this thing over. I can see the finish and it's just still going and going and going. But
Well,
again,
you definitely have a negative current in your face there. It's a little bit of like a
yeah,
back toe or something pulling against you. And yeah, it takes
yeah,
forever. So just persevere to that finish and eventually be standing on the beach. But, you know, don't, same thing as at the turn buoys and the way back. Don't try and overcook it because you feel like you're going nowhere. You are going somewhere, but stick to
Mm.
your effort.
And you hit those steps to come up out of the water, and it's just, again, it's mayhem. There's noise. There's
So you're
just
hitting about
hype.
10 steps to go up, 10
Yeah.
steps up in the transition area. Then there's some showers, and you grab your bag, you go into your changing tent, you go out and get your bike. So go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Mm. No, and yeah, I was gonna say it's just sensory overload. So suddenly you've gone from this moment where you're just absorbed in your own little world to suddenly, holy shit, I'm racing Kona.
Yeah.
Everything is happening. There's noise. So again, go through the processes of your transition and make sure you're comfortable and relaxed, and
And
get
it's
to
a
your
long
bike.
transition. You guys got a long transition. What do you feel like they should be doing on from an output standpoint? Should they speeding through it? Should they walk it? What do you think they should be doing going through that T1 to their bike, to the bike out
Yeah, I mean,
manner?
everybody responds differently to how they feel when they stand up out of the water, and some people feel they need to walk a little bit just to start getting the blood back in, flowing evenly through their body, and others feel they can run straight away. So just do what feels normal to you. If others are running around you, but you don't want to run yet, then don't feel like you need to. You don't want to get that heart rate up too high. You just want to keep it controlled, keep it relaxed. But if you feel like you can jog, then you get into a nice little rhythm and just tap along and get to your bike, and yeah, and just know where your bike is as well. That's the other thing. It's such a massive transition area that you really can get lost in it.
And you come out and you're pretty much going uphill Palani right away. So
Yeah,
when you set your bike up in the morning, something to remember is get into an easier gear, right? Get it into maybe the small ring in the front or at least a bigger cog in the cassette in the back because you get out and you're fumbling, just getting your legs going. You don't want to be in a big ring pushing up that hill because it's gonna, you're gonna have to get off and change the gear, get off and change the gears because you go pretty much uphill right away. So
yeah,
something to think about when you set your bike up in the morning, shift it to an easier gear.
yeah, exactly. And it actually does. There's quite. I mean, the first probably we'll talk American here. Probably the first 2 or 3 miles.
I didn't I like how you
Is
did a U.S. accent when you did. We'll talk
Yeah,
American
yeah.
here.
It's slightly uphill, all the way to the top of Palania Road where you turn to go down the hill. So, you actually are climbing straight away from the start. And that in itself, um, you sort of think to yourself, oh, I've got to get into the rhythm, I've got to get into the race, got to get my air bars. But just be patient. You're going to be going uphill for quite a bit before you get to the top of Palania Road and you take that fast downhill. Super careful down there. You hit that bottom at Hot Corner, and you rail it around to the left, and you can see some people get themselves into real trouble around there. So just be careful, be patient, get around that bend, and then you go back uphill again to the top of the Kuakini Highway turnaround. The first part of that bike course is quite hilly and it's quite challenging, and it is about energy management and just keeping things under control, keeping
Well,
patient.
what have you found? Like, let's talk big picture here. What if you found 112 miles, however many K that I don't even know what the hell K that is. What is that? What is it?
180.
100. I know how many it is, buddy. I'm just pulling your chain. 180K, 112 miles. What execution wise? Because it's bumpy. It's a bumpy course. It's up, it's down, it's up and down. You have to climb the Javi, you
Yeah.
have the descent back, up and down, up and down, up and down. It's like I think a lot of athletes forget that it's 112 miles, 180K, and they think it's 75, and then the last, 30, 35, 40 miles, they have nothing left in the tank, right? The last
Mm.
30, 40K, they have nothing left 30, 40, 50K because they overcook it. They get excited out there. Executions wise, what would you tell your athletes? What have you done that's led to success, allowing for the best run off the bike?
It's having a plan in place and having the discipline and the trust to stick to that plan. So in the past when I've done it, I've had a plan in my mind of hitting 280 TSS, which is basically for me um was holding between 195 and 200 watts and average power, normalized power, let's call it. And for the first part of that bike, it's probably 220 watts because of the climbing. And so once I get back onto the Queen K,
So
it was a
220
matter of
watts is like what percentage of your threshold? 220.
probably 80,
So 80 is your
85.
max that you're maxing out at. 80, 85 is what you're maxing out at as you're going up the hill.
Yeah, and it's just too high. Like, there's once you get up over that that level that you sort of plan to stick at, you need to bring that average power down because you can't stay at that level the whole way. So that's once you get up onto the highway, you start making those, you realize that the first 30 minutes is probably going to be higher than what you expect to ride anyway because of the hills. But once you get onto the highway, you settle into your rhythm and you just look at that average power and start bringing it back down to what you wanted to average for the race. And you really focus on managing that because the next hour to hour and a half on the highway on your way up to the Kauai left-hander is that's where the race is made or broken for you in that first section. If you're pushing too hard,
Where is that? Say that again.
Out to the Kauai turn left-hander. You know that from basically going past the airport for that stretch out past Waikoloa before you turn left at Kauai, and then you start to climb to Harvey. That section is make or break for your race. If you're pushing too hard there before you start the Harvey hill, you're not going to be getting up the hill comfortably, and already you're in a deep hole. You're going to be in a hole in the return journey. So
Well, that's the thing. Like you guys, there's no race day magic. Everything you're doing and executing on race day happens in the training, right? You know where you're at in the training. You're not going to exceed that, especially at a course like this. And if you do, you come off after 180K, you're going to be walking the marathon. All the work happens in the lead up to it, and then you go out there and you perform within your ability levels. So you think, oh man, is he serious? I'm gonna have to hold 70 to 75%. And if you want a successful race and you want to cross the finish line, that's what you're gonna have to hold. If you want that 70 to 75%, that the strength and the power and the build of that comes in your training. It doesn't come on race day. Be realistic with that number and stick to that number so you can have a successful day overall.
Yeah, and if you think you're riding too hard, then you are. You know, you probably are. You definitely are. It shouldn't be a hard ride. It should be riding at an intensity that you know that you can handle for the amount of time you're going to be out there for. There's no section in this race that you should feel like you're pushing beyond your limits.
Now, did you pay attention to heart rate when you're out there, or just power?
I definitely looked at my heart rate because again, if you come from a cold climate, your heart generally is a lot higher than it would be normally. So and also I had a core sensor on as well, so I was following my core body temperature, and I just made sure that the combination of power, heart rate, speed, and core temperature was all within what I needed it to be. And if it wasn't, then I'd have to modify the plan.
Well, you're constantly scanning, right? You're scanning your power, you're scanning your heart rate, you're scanning your core sensor. If you have that, if you don't have that, don't stress out. But I heard an interview years ago after Keenley won one of his championships. He said, I was totally down in my heart rate. As soon as that, and he was one of the strongest cyclists in the sport at the time. He said, as soon as that heart rate went above whatever it was, 160, I don't care what my wattage was, I had to back it down because the body don't lie. So go into it with your parameters. Know your power parameters. Know your heart rate parameters. In your case, you knew your core parameters. Know your feel. If you're feeling like it's too hard, everything's in line, but it just feels like it's too hard. You got to be scanning the internal feel and the external metrics and be making the right decision based on what those are telling you.
Yeah, and the cool thing about doing that is it passes the time really quickly as well, because you're always looking at this information and you're always studying it and thinking, all right, where we are right now, you know, what do I have to do to change this? And before you know it, you know, you're on the road to Harvey, you're on the climb to Harvey, and suddenly it's like, oh, crikey, halfway's coming up here. You know, time will pass really well when you start focusing on those things.
And do you push the descent back, or do you let your legs just spin out and just stay on the pedals slightly, but you use it as a recovery? I mean, what did you do for success?
I actually ride the downhills. I ride that downhill quite hard, but not hard as in out of my limit, but constantly putting pressure on the pedals, constantly keeping the chain under tension, and I find that would actually give me more control if there is a little bit of a crosswind, rather than relaxing too much and sort of being soft, floppy, and relaxed in that wind and getting moved around too much. If I was always sort of pedaling through it, I always felt that I was able to keep the pressure on and keep controlled, balance out the crosswinds, and yeah, if you're a good cyclist, it's a great part of the course to really dial it in and enjoy it.
Well, and also if you look at the undulation of the course here, you have the descent from Javi, you keep a little pressure on it. But one thing that I've done in the past, I did this at Penticton back in the day, I did it at Nice a couple weeks ago, is you look at the undulation and you see it here at maybe 150 kilometers, almost a little over 90 miles in, you say, "Oh, look, it's a descent from the finish. I'm pretty much done when I hit 95 miles or 150K." That's not the case, guys. It always looks, quote unquote, easier than it is. You got to ride and stay mindful, and there's no let up in your focus until you get to that T2 banner, right? So
Yeah,
don't look at the
exactly.
undulation and say, my day's over at mile 95. Like, I can get ready for the run then. You still have 17 miles to go. And for a lot of you, that's an hour, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
stay dialed in, stay focused, present on the moment, and don't think that, okay, I can let up at this point. It's easy from there. It's not easy at any point. And it's those athletes who take that for granted, get off their nutrition, and think, I'm going to be able to let up and finish 17 miles early because the descent are the ones who have a really tough time getting onto the run.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Even though it looks downhill, it
Right.
feels uphill because you're generally riding into the headwind. And by then you're seeing the pros on the run,
And
and
you're
you're
so
like,
tired. I mean, you've been
ah,
out there
yeah,
for 5, 6, 7 hours by now. Like
yeah,
your mind is starting to wander. The fatigue is up. You just want to get off the freaking bike. You might have some undercarriage rubbing happening. All you want is a slab of Vaseline to put on your taint, and you just want it to be done by then. Refocus. Don't look towards the end, and just stay
Mm,
dialed into the process.
yeah, exactly.
And if anything,
Um,
finish easier than you think you should.
yeah, and yeah, exactly. I mean, you should come off that bike thinking, okay, well, that was a long bike, but I've got plenty in the tank, and I'm ready to take on this run. You shouldn't come off that bike thinking, oh my God, I'm
Now,
in
now,
trouble
did
here.
you do anything different nutrition wise going in or in Kona versus what you had done in previous races, or anything you changed based on
No,
the
I just
specific demands of the course?
listened to the body, stuck to the signs, knowing that it's hot and it's humid. So, constantly keeping the body wet, you know, keeping the skin wet. So there's always something to evaporate off to help
So every aid
regulate
station, you go through the aid station and you would make sure you always spray down the body with
yeah,
water. Got
exactly.
that old sweat off the skin, kept it from boiling on there, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great point. I mean, make
And
sure you're going through the aid stations and you're using the water to splash yourself.
yeah, exactly. And I had two bottles of my special carb mix on the way out, and then when I got to the personal needs station, I had two bottles on my special carb mix on the way back. So I knew I had to get through those two bottles on the way out and the two bottles on the way back. That was
Hmm.
priority. And then other than that, there was the pH. No, we had multiple hydration electrolytes. I was drinking that as I needed to, just to make sure I was still getting plenty of electrolytes in, and then fresh water.
But
Keeping
you
the
had
water going
practiced
as
with all
well.
this. None of this stuff was new. You've been taking the carb mix. You've been drinking the electrolytes. You practiced with it going into
Yeah,
race day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Although I hadn't practiced with the multiple hydration before because we don't get it in New Zealand, but it was good. It was fine.
So
It went down
so
nicely.
so you guys stick to your plan. You stick to your nutrition plan. You stick to your
Mm,
execution plan. You feel out the body. If you never feel like you're going harder than you should be going. If you feel that
mm,
way, back it down. Don't let your ego talk. Stick within your current ability levels. We let the chips fall where they may.
yeah.
You get to T2, right? You got any good takeaways for their T2 execution?
Similar thing with T1. If you feel you need to walk the first part, just because you've been spending the previous half a day on the bike, just walk it out to start with, and then start getting into a little bit of a rhythm, just a bit of a jog, loosen the legs up, and then again, it's a long transition. It's a very long transition, and
And
then
it's
you
kind of
finally
it's opposite of what you guys did on the way in from the swim, right? So you come in
exactly,
where you
yeah,
went on the bike and you just run opposite of the way you ran on the swim. And are
yeah,
there bike? Did you remember if there's bike rackers there for you? So you just get yeah, there are bike rackers in
there
Kona.
were,
You give
yep,
them the bike
yep,
and then you go get your T2 bag, get in the tent, the change tent, and
mm,
I heard a quote by someone doing a Nice pre-race talk, and I forget what it was, and one of the coaches on there said, "Remember, nothing good ever happens in T2, right? So the quicker you can get in, the less thinking you do about, damn, I got to run, a marathon now, the better.
yeah,
Just get in, get your stuff on, don't think, get it on and get out, right? Even if you have to get out and start walking the first mile until you start building into your pace." Get in and get out. I love that quote. I got to figure
That's
out who
great.
said it. Nothing good
Yeah,
ever happens in
you should
T2.
claim it. You
Okay,
just
I'm gonna say I said it, right? I
yeah,
said it via some Nice pre-race. I don't know. I'll
yeah,
look it up and give him credit.
yeah.
But yeah, so get in and get out. The quicker the better. It's free time, but don't be hasty, but be quick.
Mm. Yep, yep.
So easy said there. You come out, you're going down a lead drive right from the start. It's
Well,
just
but remember, it goes up a little
oh,
bit
it does.
first.
It does. You make
Yeah,
that little loop up Bonnie and then come back down
yeah,
the lane. That's
yeah.
right.
So
Yep.
again, you're going straight uphill as soon as you
Yeah, that's right.
start the
Yep.
run, and it's not a long hill, but it's just enough to give you a bit of a shock to the system, and then you settle in, you go along Kilkenny Boulevard, then you turn down onto Alii
Right.
Drive, and then you're into
Right.
the
Where they make
environment.
that left-hand turn at right around what's that coffee place called? I forget what the name of it is, but
Oh, just before Lava Java.
Right before
Um,
Lava Java, you make
yeah,
that
yeah,
left-hand turn, and then you head
yeah.
out a lead drive, and I mean, there's a ton of people around, and this is where you see a lot of athletes get burned by the hype,
Mm,
by the noise of all the people on course cheering. You're early in, you're happy you're off the freaking bike, and a lot of people leave a little too much out there. And you see with the pros every year, right? They're cooking because everybody's cheering for them, and then they go out and back in a Lee, and then they go out to they go up Palani, they make the left onto the Queen K, and that's where that over running in the first little bit really
mm.
comes back to bite you in the ass. So what's your advice taking it out of transition as they make that left hand turn on a Lee and up to the turnaround?
Well, it's the same thing as the in the bike. Is it's quite a lumpy course. There's a lot of undulations. And that Ali drive section out and back is there's a lot of sections where you're going either uphill or downhill. There's not a lot of just dead flat. So again, it's energy management, it's pace management, it's controlling your emotions and your energy, and just making sure you don't get carried away. Um, and in particular, it's the very very humid part of the course as well. So it's hot, it's humid. There is shade because there's trees, but that's only on the side of the road when you're heading out to the turnaround. When you're coming back, you're in the middle of the road, so there's no shade. And again, there's these long gradual inclines that you've got to roll yourself over. Plenty of aid stations, so make the most of the aid stations, but yeah, it's a really really draining part of the course. Um, and then when you turn right to go back up towards Kilkenny Highway, and then along that section there, that's when it starts getting really hot. It's less humidity because you've sort of come away from the ocean a little bit, so you're starting to climb a little bit more, and the lower humidity, but the sun's still the same. So that's when you start feeling yourself getting fried. And again, it's just a matter of just not worrying about how far it is, how far down the highway you need to go. It's just focusing on what's directly in front of you, and just reaching each point.
There's
That
so much carnage on this run course, Rob.
mm,
What's the secret? What separates those athletes who have the great runs or the solid runs that are consistent start to finish versus the athletes who have really bad experiences on this run course?
Again, yeah, it's a tough one, eh? It's like it's 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 having it's knowing when you need to walk to either go through an aid station to get all your fuel on board, or to just give yourself a moment to regather your thoughts again. And it's making that voluntary choice to walk, but not making that longer than it needs to before you start settling into your run again. And rather than fighting the fact that you think you need to walk, you should make that choice to walk, just to regather yourself and just to sort of reset, rather than fighting it and eventually your body just saying no, you're not going any further. And that's what you don't want to have happen. So it's all about negotiation with your body and your mind, and just saying, okay, I'm going to allow myself to walk this little section here, or just get to that next cone up there or that next aid station, and then we're going to start running again.
Yeah,
Um,
and that you remember Jan Frodeno when he won years ago. I mean, it wasn't long walks, but he was walking pretty much every aid station. He'd walk,
yeah.
he'd dunk his head in the ice, he'd get on board the fuel that he needed to get on board, and then he'd get back into his 5 minute
Mm,
per mile pace or whatever the hell that is in minutes per K. But he took the time to do what he had to do at the aid stations to reset, run to the next aid station, reset, run to the next aid station,
mm,
and I was having a really shit day in Nice. I mean, just from a performance, I mean, I was consistent. I was where I was heart rate and effort wise. I just hadn't done the training going into it. And every
Mm,
aid station I walked, I got on board what I needed to get on, and allowed me to keep going mile after mile after mile. It wasn't the pace I was used to running. I had to really check my ego, but it was what I was capable of on that given day.
mm,
But having those little resets every aid station allowed me to keep going from aid station to aid station, and actually finish with the strongest 3 or 4 miles, the strongest last 5K of the day, because I had been consistent in the pacing and I did what I had to do nutritional wise to get through it. So, like you're
mm.
saying, check your ego, and it's not a bad thing to slow down and walk to get on board, which you need to get on board, because this is such a demanding course. It's a vortex of energy suck. Take that serious, guys, and just do what you have to do to run steady and consistent, and check your ego and say, okay, if I have to walk, I have to walk. It's not a bad thing.
Mm. The year Chrissy Wellington broke the record, she walked part of Palani Road up the hill, up the climb. You know,
Yeah. It's so
that's
steep that you're better off, you're more efficient walking up that thing, and
yeah,
then get back into your
exactly.
run stride once you
Can,
make that left out onto the highway.
you can control your heart rate, and then that stretch along the highway, it's really really long. You know, we can't beat around the bush on this one. It's a really long stretch of road, and it's very very draining, and it's lonely because the spectators don't go out past I think maybe 1 or 2 Ks out. Suddenly you're on your own, and it's just you and the athletes and a couple of in the aid stations, and you know that's the real mental part of it. It's like, okay, I know where I've got to get to. I know where the energy lab is. I've just got to get myself to that intersection to turn to into go into the energy lab, and it's a tough section, you know that. But there's a reason why you're there. It's because you're a tough athlete. You know, this is all part of what you signed up for. And then when you go down into the energy lab, it's a descent down into back down to the beach level again. And as you're dropping down, you start coming back into the humidity again, and suddenly you're sort of brought back into another different microclimate. You know, before on the Queen K, it was less humidity but very very hot, and you get there back down into the energy lab, and it's exactly what it is. It's sucking your energy. It's high humidity. It's again still very exposed. Um, there might be a little bit of a breeze, you know, but not a cold breeze. Just you know, constantly something pushing on you. And again, it's a tough section of the course. You get to that turnaround at the end of the energy lab, and it feels like a weight's lifted off your shoulders, because now you're like, okay, I'm on the way home, you know, and that's a special. If you can get to that point and start feeling good, then you're really in a good place. It's
And
it's quite
everybody
cool.
has different check-in points, like you're saying, right? Know those different
Mm,
segments that you're going to run to, right? Know you're going to run to the turnaround on Lee. Know you're going to run to Palani. You're going to walk up Palani. You're going to make the left on the Queen K, and then you're going to run aid station to aid station. But have these little check-in points. Then you're going to get to the energy lab, and then you're going to have the turnaround at the energy lab. So you're not running 42K or 26 miles.
mm,
You're running a couple miles at a time, a couple K at a time, and then you check in. Then you run a couple more K, and then you check in, right? It's not
mm.
one big run. It's just a bunch of little runs strung together.
Yeah, exactly. And when hopefully everybody's had a chance to run the energy lab, so that at least they've seen what it's like. But it is quite a steep, not a steep climb. It's an incline coming out of the energy lab, and it is, again, it's quite draining and it's quite tough. But the thing that really caught me out, and I can look on the map and I see it is there, is you go past an intersection in the energy lab, and it starts running you back up towards the highway to another turnaround, and then you turn around, you come back down again. And I didn't know that was in the course until race day, and I ran up to the intersection thinking, oh great, I get to turn left here. I looked up and it was about another 200 meters up the road, and I was thinking, oh, this has just broken me. But you know, if I had known that, it would have been absolutely fine. So to just understand that there is another little turnaround in the energy lab before you sort of make that final stretch back up towards the highway again. So there's some little um there's some little sections in that course that catch you out. That you just have to know what's coming and not be surprised.
I think the
Um,
key to getting to that back half, like you're saying, is not letting your mind beat you. You see a
mm,
lot of athletes, the fatigue's up, you're totally drained, right? You've been at it for 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 hours. All you want to do is get to the finish line, and you let
mm,
your mind start to wander, and you make the turnaround at the energy lab, and the smallest little thing pisses you off, like this 200
mm,
meters to a turn. It's like That shouldn't piss you off. It's only 200 meters. You're running 42K, right? That shouldn't piss you off, but the smallest things piss you off because of the state of fatigue you're in.
Yeah.
Recognize this, recognize your mind is wandering, recognize you're letting it go south, accept it and bring it back to the present and say, you know what? I'm in a beautiful spot. I earned my right to be here. Stay focused until I cross that finish line. But a big part of it is recognizing when the mind starts to go south and then turning it around, taking a breath, taking a beat, resetting, and then turning it around into the present. And it doesn't have to be positive. Oh, I'm the happiest person in the world. It just has to be focus on the knee drive, focus on the foot strike, focus on the good posture, focus on your breathing, focus on your nutrition, take the mind off the negative, put it onto the positive.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, we've all got strengths and weaknesses in this sort of race. And some people find that, you know, if they're a good back end runner, this course really suits that sort of person. And I've got a couple of athletes that are very good runners. And one thing I've said to them is make sure you exit the energy lab to go back onto the Queen K. You've got 10K to go. That's when you want to feel like you're a runner. You know, if all you've been doing up to that point is just holding back, managing, controlling, you know, keeping things under wraps, get to that turn and then go, all right, I'm going to run this home. You know, nothing's stopping me now. You've got 10K to go. You're a great runner. Show us what you can do. And that's for the athletes that really nail this race. They're the ones that can do that final 10K. It may not necessarily be any faster, but they're feeling really, really good. And, you know, they're blasting through the aid stations. They're passing people on the way. And that just lifts your spirit so much more. So if you feel that you're that sort of person, give yourself that plan to get out of the energy lab and start feeling like that now, okay, now I'm going to bring this thing home.
Well, like you said, it might not be any faster. It's just your mindset is, okay, now I'm pushing to the finish line, and pushing might be a minute slower per mile or a minute slower per K, but at least you know you're pushing with everything you got.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a tiny, well, no, it's not tiny, it's massive. There's a climb up towards the top of Palani Road before you take that right-hander, and it's the last hill on the race. And it's a long stretch. You can see the top of it the whole way. There's always a tent up there with the DJ and music and stuff going on. I remember one year Corey was standing at the top of the hill, and I was like, this thing is crazy. And you're 1 mile from, or two, probably a mile and a half from the finish, and it was you know, that's when the enjoyment of this race actually kicked in, was getting to the top of that hill, taking that right-hander into Palani. For the next mile, I was just floating home, just knowing that this thing is over. You know, you just got to run downhill, run along that stretch along the Kukini Highway, back down to Lee Drive, and then you got 400 meters to go. And that's a wicked part of the course. You know, you get to that point there, and it's like, oh yeah, this is cool. So look forward to that.
And then what's the feeling like going down a Lee to the finish?
Oh, it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. You know, you finish the toughest race in the world, the race that everybody wants to do, not everybody can do, and it's it's very, very special. Take the time, enjoy the finish shoot. You know, it's just one of those very, very special races. It's the one that keeps people coming back to it. You know, and if it's your first time, then yeah, you've really got a special thing, a lot of memories there.
Yeah, we're really proud of everybody who qualified there. You know, we're gonna have a whole nother contingent coming next year going over there with the men and the women, and it's exciting time, guys. So embrace every second you're out there. When stuff starts to go south, remind yourself where you're at and how amazing it and how special it is that you get to do this. Right, it's an outlet from all the rest of the stresses you have. Pressure's off. You're where you want to be. Go execute within your means. Stay on your nutrition and try and keep a smile on your face from beginning to end, because it's a special event to be over there doing it. So, any final words from you, buddy?
No, just everybody. Good. Just want to wish you all good luck, and send us our messages and tell us how you went. We love hearing from the listeners, just to updating us. And yeah, if you found this useful, then pass it on, share it on to your other friends.
That's right. And we're going to keep supporting NS Carbon, negative split carbon wheels. So they're the fastest wheels in the business. So if you guys want to go to nscarbon.com, CtC pod at checkout, will give you 10% off. Yeah, perfect. And I raced NS Carbon wheels at Kona last year, and they were fantastic. Love them. I got some sound going on outside here. So anything else, Rob? No, check out. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll stay tuned for the next CtC podcast, but tell your friends, keep subscribing to our podcast, keep checking out on our YouTube page. It's Conquer the Course podcast YouTube page, and we love doing these things, man. I look forward to seeing you in a couple days, and
Yeah.
remember nscarbon.com CTC pod for 10% off those purchases. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Any questions, leave it on our Instagram page, our YouTube page, or just email or text us directly. Thanks for tuning in. Later, guys. Love
Cheers.
you. All right. Later,
Yeah.
Ruff. Bye.